this time you've waited, and it's finally here, the single dumbest episode of this particular program. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is the single dumbest episode of Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday, probably not after this one, though. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates, all of which will be better than this. But hey, hear me out, even if it's just for the last time. See, there's a lot of nonsense going around. I talked about it earlier in the week. Football people are frustrated, and within that, they're bored. NFL draft still 8 days away. There's virtually no news coming from any corner of the league. No one's about to be leaking out who they might take or who they're looking at or whatever, and everybody's hunkered down. This is that time of year. Really, really busy for them, not as busy for us. So TJ Watt puts out the picture on Instagram of himself giving the peace sign, and that gets interpreted a bunch of different ways. And somewhere, somebody, for some insane reason, starts concocting TJ trade scenarios. All idiotic, but nowhere near as idiotic as what I'm about to do. Because I'm going to ask, and that's all this is. It's a question. Doesn't mean it's smart, but it's just a question that with so many people in so many places seemingly so comfortable discussing or debating what the Steelers might get in a TJ trade, even though anybody with even a sliver of awareness of who the Steelers are and the way they do things will know that TJ's not going anywhere, I will put forth to you what might the Steelers get in a Minkah Fitzpatrick trade. Wait, you still there? You're still listening? Like all four of you? You're still with me after I said that? Listen, hear me out here. Because I'm not even necessarily saying that I would support this. But I do think this one aspect of it should be worth considering. Minkah's a defensive back. Minkah turns 29 in November. Minkah has 2 years left on his contract, both of which come with cap hits over $20 million, meaning each year. And way more relevant than that, to this point that I'm probably going to fail to make, is that the Steelers don't utilize him in a manner befitting what earned Minkah that contract. You follow me on that? Minkah is not the impact player that he was at the time he was signed to that keep Minkah for life kind of deal. The decision was made to have him go roam in center field this past season. Just stand out there like a scarecrow in the pasture. Force the other team to pick the side that he wasn't on. Wait for something to go really, really wrong, and then try to minimize the damage. Mike Tomlin can deny that this was the case, but it takes only about 5 minutes of watching the Steelers' defense on film from this past season to understand that Minkah was a center fielder the same way that Ken Griffey Jr., Willie Mays, and Andy Van Slyke were. He's in the middle of the field, he's standing there, and he's waiting. And in the process, what was wasted, very obviously, were two things I feel that could have been of much greater benefit to this defense and to this team as a whole. One is that Minkah very much had a ball-hawking sense about him. One can always argue that that sort of thing is luck. You know, he just happened to be around a carom that went up in the air or whatever. Ed Reed should have proven to everyone for all eternity that there is such a thing as having that sense. Among others, it wasn't just Reed, but Reed most recently. Well, if you put Minkah 30 yards off the line of scrimmage, it doesn't matter what he's sensing or hawking or anything because he's too far away to make a difference. The other thing that you remove from the equation is that Minkah is an extraordinary tackler. Now, do you want your safety or your safeties to be close to the line? No, of course not. if only because it means that people are getting through all the rest of your defenders. I could sing from here to the heavens about the season that Deshaun Elliott just had for the Steelers, in large part because his tackles, his finishes were so thorough, so technically clean that he became, and this is not an overstatement, a dominant player at that position in that role. So great, you say, well, that just frees up Minkah. I got to tell you, I'm getting a little tired of that term. I'm not as worried about freeing up Minkah as I used to be, because what they've taken that to mean is freeing him up to just keep the really, really, really bad thing from happening. That is the literal football-esque definition of living in your fears. Taking a player who's that talented, which again is why he's highly compensated, meaning Minkah in this case, not the head coach, and reducing him to babysitting duty. So, and this is where I come full circle on this moronic concept, if you're not going to use him the way he should be used, maybe somebody else would. Maybe somebody else would appreciate the things that he can do and get full value out of him. So yeah, just go ahead and trade him. Just do that. Right? Yeah? When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar.
Today's J1Q comes from Michael Walden, says, did Art Rooney not say that he wanted a younger, more mobile quarterback? I guess we all can just say stuff and not mean it publicly. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, DK. My thoughts on what Rooney said were clear the moment I walked out of that room where he said them. And that's, oh, okay, good. I was a little surprised he was that candid about it. But the reference at the time, if you'll recall, was that he wanted to keep Justin Fields. He wanted to, specific to what he actually said, he wanted to keep one of the two quarterbacks between Fields and Russell Wilson. He wanted not only the starting quarterback to be mobile, but he wanted Arthur Smith to be able to benefit from a room full of those types. And then finally, when asked if he would prefer that the quarterback would be younger, he said yes, instead of just saying, whatever. There's a million different ways to dodge that thing, and he didn't. So you had three things that squarely pointed at the Steelers wanting Fields, at the owner of the Steelers wanting Fields. Then they didn't get him. They didn't really try all that hard to get him either. And regardless of how you or I or anybody feels about that in isolation, meaning whether or not they should have paid what the Jets did to keep Fields, the part that remains unmistakable is that the owner wanted that type of quarterback. And the next thing that you hear from Rooney, because that was back in January, was just a few days ago in Palm Beach, Florida, at the NFL annual meeting, where Rooney was sounding legitimately stoked that Aaron Rodgers was, in Rooney's words, moving in our direction, meaning moving in the Steelers' direction when it comes to making a decision. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened. Rooney had said in that same January session, albeit in 2024, that the Steelers wanted to bring Mason Rudolph back, and then they never even offered a contract. So I'm probably not going to be able to answer your question because I can't get inside of his head. I can't know what would have changed. I can't know what would have influenced him in one direction or the other. What would have influenced the first set of remarks and then whatever happened next. I do know, and I'm going to stick by this, that the pattern that's in play is that the head coach gets what he wants, even when it isn't necessarily what people around him, or in this case, over him, want. And good luck trying to disprove me on that one. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to be back with another one of these tomorrow when we will be exactly 1 week out from the NFL draft. And don't forget, today at 4 p.m. Eastern, we've got a double shot of Steelers that comes your way via live video. You can find that on any number of platforms, not least of which are YouTube and, of course, our own DK Pittsburgh Sports.